What is up, everybody? I'm No Lex Given, and today we are going to be taking a look at Oni Tyrant, which is a character that kind of fell by the wayside, and I mean that in two ways. One, it hasn't really been that powerful of a character, so I haven't played it too much or looked at it too often in my videos, but also it was recently buffed in the most recent patch, and I never really covered it on this channel. I never did a formal patch review because I was sick, so I'm going to make up for that at the end of this video. We'll run through the patch notes real quick, but basically I just did videos last week breaking down the different aspects of the patch. A game on Puffy, a game on Goldilocks, and games showcasing the change of Horn of Olympus and Evil Eye from Tier 4 to Tier 5 and vice versa. But I never looked at Oni Tyrant, which was another character that was changed on the patch that, I just kind of forgot about, to be honest, until this game, where Oni Tyrant definitely saved my skin. So I wanted to highlight Oni Tyrant kind of in the same way that I highlighted some of those other changes, and this is a good game to do so, and it's a pretty nice game. We start off with a Cinderella into a Frog Prince, which is a reasonable start. I really like Cindy on Trophy Hunter. I just love Tier 2 treasures on Trophy Hunter. There's a number of them that are good. Bounty Board, Hermes, Sandals. But another one that is really good is Monster Manual. You wind up playing a bunch of monsters on Trophy Hunter because those have those last breaths that turn into slays. And because you play a bunch of monsters, well, that's what makes Oni Tyrant so good on this hero as well. We're going to take a look for Tier 2 treasures by tripling up on this baby root. And honestly, I don't really find anything that I like here, so I wind up just skipping so that way I can pick up a Black Cat. I figured a 3-1 Black Cat is still pretty reasonable on Trophy Hunter, so I skipped to pick that up, and honestly, you can see this Black Cat just wins the entire combat by itself. Pretty silly stuff, but we'll need some more help to win some more combats coming up, and there's some other really good tools in the shop. All of these characters have a last breath, and so have some additional stats, and I really consider selling off my Cinderella so that way I can pick up 2 level 3 characters, but ultimately I just don't want to give up Cindy. I think that the Tier 2 treasures are so good on this hero. I'm going to wind up picking up Lucky so that way we can grab some additional econ out of him. And then I just cast this Flourish. It helps to take down the Cindy, it protects the baby root, maybe that does something, but we're just trying to slay with Lucky and have Lucky die as well, and try to grab some additional econ for ourselves that way. Lucky is going to both slay and die, so we will get the econ, but unfortunately we also wind up losing this combat slowly as my opponent's ranged units take out my big baby root. But now we get to pick up a free Ogre Princess. Well, that wasn't one of the characters that I locked onto, but I'll take it. And then I'll also take the Prized Pig and the Mummy, and I'll even go for the Reckless Wager. I'm done with this Black Cat at this point, and we're set up to potentially really grab some gold here. We've got the Lucky, we've got the Prized Pig, we've got the Reckless Wager. Prized Pig kind of an and then Ogre Princess as well. Prized Pig kind of an interesting character on Trophy Hunter. I still generally like it because it's just a bigger unit, so therefore it is quite strong, a 5/6 for 3 coin. It is awkward that when it slays, you wind up donating your opponents some gold, but who cares? We'll try to grab some gold ourselves. If our opponents get some gold in the process, well, so be it. But sometimes you're going to just have that Prized Pig not slay and get to stick around. So we've got a bunch of bonus gold from this turn. I'll also go ahead and pick up another Goat and a Romeo. Those were free from the Lucky. And then we got the other goat from the Ogre Princess. So we're building towards a lot of potential for treasures right now, and that is obviously really good. I am going to have to sell off this Romeo to pick up another Prized Pig, but there's also good Tier 3 treasures as well. The main one being Bad Moon. Every time you slay, your character is getting additional +1/+2. So because of that, I'm even going to sell off the Lucky, so that way I can play as many pairs as possible. Could have potentially sold off the Ogre Princess. Oh, no, we picked up a second Ogre Princess. Yeah, that's why. So maybe we could have sold off, like, the Lonely Prince, but it's a 5/5. I just want to play some stats on the board as well, so we'll go for that. We do miss on both of our mummies. We do get to slay... Wait, did we even slay with the Ogre Princess? No, we didn't. So we missed all over the place on that one. Kind of awkward. But we do get to pick up another tier 2 treasure here, and I just decide to go for Noble Steed. It is going to mean that Cindy now gets us a tier 3 treasure, but like I said, Bad Moon also pretty reasonable. Not going to find it though. So a little bit awkward. I will wind up picking up a Gingerbread Knight. 14-14. Hard to turn that down. So gonna go for that, and then I'm gonna sell off all of my characters here that aren't pairs to triple up on this mummy, and that lets us either pick up a Haunted Helm or a treasure map, and I felt like I was kind of hurting. We're in last place right now in this lobby, so I want to put some more stats on the board, and I'm gonna pick up a Haunted Helm to do so, locking onto this Gingerbread Knight. Just because it's a good amount of stats, and so I'll want to pick that up. But I figured plus 10 health on the Gingerbread Knight. There's maybe things that we can do with the Haunted Helm later. It's not as good as like Sting or something, trying to slay with that down the line, but whatever, we'll take it. This combat is actually pretty awkward. We wind up slaying and giving both of our prized pigs to our opponent, but we get the win. They don't attack into the Gingerbread Knight. That would have been absolutely devastating. I make a pretty big mistake here, and I cast a health potion, putting myself to 21 health, which shrinks both of my Gingerbread Knights. So really awkward, and I just have not found good treasures this game. I have not gotten particularly lucky. I've not played it particularly well, so it's not going the best for us. I really do consider picking up a Friendly Spirit, which could make use of the Haunted Helm and the Baby Root support, but really, we want to be putting additional attack on our characters. Everything that I'm doing is just putting health on all of my characters. So let's grab some attack on the board. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a Sporko, so that way we can maybe do some stuff with that. But it's an awkward board nonetheless, picking up the Haunted Helm, because then you can't put a Slay character in that first slot. So I don't know. Yeah, just all across the board, a pretty awkward game for us, and not going super well. Like I said, Oni Tyrant is going to save us this game. I didn't say it was going to be a good game before that. Just a good showcase for the Oni Tyrant. So that is exactly what we are looking at today. We will get another loss here, which is good, because now our Gingerbread Knights are online, and now we can even grab an upgrade on Gingerbread Knight and a tier 4 treasure, and Evil Eye is just what the doctor ordered. Double our support bonuses. That'll mean double the efficacy of Sporko and Baby Root, so a bunch of stats right now on this board, but also double Baba Yagas if we're able to pick up any of those in the future. So that could be really good for us. I'm going to wind up picking up a Golden Chicken, and I kind of like Lightning Dragon, kind of like the Monster Book. I think I'll probably just cast this Forbidden Fruit and pick up one or the other of those. And when you are playing Trophy Hunter, it's probably just Monster Book, because then you can try to slay with that and cast some additional spells for free. So that's what I'm going to go for, and then I'm also going to put in this Shadow Assassin over the backline Ogre Princess. I'm going to cut both of the Ogres, actually, just in favor of a little bit more stats, potentially, that could work out for us. My opponent with a Soul Tack, a little bit scary, but we take that out, and then they take out our Monster Book, so we're not getting any slays, but we do just have a bunch of stats from the Gingerbread Knight. So that's able to soak up a bunch of hits, and then our ranged units are able to clear it up. So a close one, but we are able to get it done indeed. We're playing up against the Ghost, and that Shadow Assassin did not even come close to slaying, so I'm just going to de-end it and get it out of here, and we'll basically just be rolling for Baba Yagas right now while we are level 5, but it's tough. It's tough. We are really not doing super hot, and I feel like Friendly Spirit is just a good unit. It might be able to get us out of this. We can pump it up with the Sporko, though while we are playing up against the Ghost, I'm going to get a little bit greedy, and I'm going to try to slay with some Ogre Princesses, because we got nothing else going on in this game, so we got to try to make something happen here. I'm going to put these Ogre Princesses into position to slay, and we'll see what they can do, but I'm definitely floundering, and we definitely need some help. We are going to get the slay with the Ogre Princesses. Merlin Bot is generously donating prized pig gold, just like we were earlier, donating prized pig gold to the rest of the lobby. So that's possibly also why our opponents are doing so well this game. They have been the beneficiaries of some Merlin hits and some Merlin combats earlier on. But we get to grab a pretty big pickup here. We grab a Friendly Spirit triple, though we don't find Coin of Sharon. Coin of Sharon would have been the big one there for us. Even, I'll take a 3 of swords just to grab a little bit more attack, but no great treasures. We do get to pick up a Krampus's sleigh, so maybe if one of my opponents has some okay treasures, we can do something fun, and I don't want to be too sour. We did find the Evil Eye. That was a pretty good treasure for us, but the rest is not going. One final look at a tier 2 treasure. Nothing. Okay, so we'll skip on that. I'll cast a Genie's Wish, and then I'll probably just roll down for the rest of the turn, and then I find a Baba Yaga. So hold on a minute. We can pick that up. That would be pretty nice for us. I'll sell off an Ogre Princess, so that way I can hang on to Sporko, because I'm really struggling to put attack onto my characters. I'll take all of the help that I can get. Friendly Spirit going to get attacked into, but Mummy gets to slay. So that is going to be a whole bunch of Mummy missiles. One from Mummy dying, one from Mummy slaying, one from Baba Yaga, and one from Baba Yaga Evil Eye. So 4 Mummy missiles there. Pretty nice stuff. Not enough to find us a win, but enough to, well, I guess have us not die? I don't know. It didn't really do anything. We'll pick up some Hermes Magic Beans, and then here is where we finally start to turn some things around. 9 health, up against the lobby leader, but Oni Tyrant. Your monsters, when they attack, get plus 13. That might be enough to allow our monsters to slay. It is also going to be just good to give Friendly Spirit plus 13, to give the Mummy plus 13. So both of those things are really good as well. And I'm going to hope that these additional 13 stats are enough to help these monsters slay and pick up a Jormungand to go along with all of my other monster friends here. Hopefully this is enough. I'm not sure also if I should be playing Gingerbread Knight or if I should be playing Monster Book, but ultimately wind up just playing Monster Book. It could potentially get a scam in or something like that too, so it could be a sweet treasure to have. Let's see, is it going to be enough? Friendly Spirit does not get the slay, but our Mummy does, so that is going to be another 4 Mummy missiles to take out a bunch of my opponent's characters. That's enough to get the win. So, my opponent has 3 really good treasures, but we only get to take 1. I would love to just trade all of my treasures for these ones, but it's a tough choice. We have to decide between Bad Moon and the scaling this late in the game. I don't know if that's quite going to cut it, so I just go for Ambrosia. Let's upgrade this Oni Tyrant. Let's try to find some more Oni Tyrants, and maybe we can do this thing the old-fashioned way. No scaling, just slaying and making some really large monsters. I'll get to pick up another Baba Yaga, which is a pretty good pickup here, and then I am just rolling for another Oni Tyrant or Baba Yaga to round out the turn. I'm going to feed Sporko to the Kraken. That way I've got a little bit more gold to roll down. I do see the Empress P, but it doesn't work with the Oni Tyrant, and I think that would be doing a big disservice to the board. So I'm going to wind up rolling past that. I also roll past an Echo Wood and find ourselves with another Baba Yaga to pick up for next turn. So we'll be able to have an upgraded Baba Yaga supporting both the Friendly Spirit and the Mummy. Those are getting now plus 26 when they attack. It's again not quite enough for the Friendly Spirit, but it is going to be enough for the Mummy, which is now throwing out a bunch of missiles because it is double Baba Yaga supported. So that is definitely going to be enough to win. We'll pick up the Baba Yaga triple, and then we've got a few interesting options here. And honestly, I thought I was going to go for Hand of Midas, but I wind up going for Staff of the Old Toad. I could really see going either way with this one. it's tough. You can see me go back and forth a few times. I probably am not planning on using the Hand of Midas on this Hercules either. I'm just trying to find another Oni Tyrant, and I figured the most consistent way that I could find more Oni Tyrants and Baba Yagas is to pick up this Staff of the Old Toad, so that way our shops are just going to be that much more consistent. It would have been great to pick up an upgraded Oni Tyrant here, but if I hadn't picked up the Staff of the Old Toad, I might not have found that Oni Tyrant at all. So it's tough to say. I'm just going to pick up this Oni Tyrant, and then I'm actually going to be looking for a Knighthood now. I do consider locking onto another friendly spirit, because then you can have your friendly spirits trigger onto each other, which can be really powerful. But I'm just going to hope to find a Knighthood soon, so that way I can have 2 upgraded Oni Tyrants. Maybe do some fun stuff with that. But with 1.5 upgraded Oni Tyrants, our friendly spirits are finally going to start slaying. So that makes a huge Jormungand. It makes all of my characters huge, really, as those friendly spirit triggers travel across the board. And then as each of my monsters attack, they get plus 39, so some pretty good numbers there. We doing some numbers, and Monster Book's even getting in some slays, and then Jormungand can finish it off. And we are on to the finals, and for the finals we have one more Knighthood to cast on that Oni Tyrant. It's exactly what I was looking for. You ask and you shall receive. I wind up rolling, and then I lock onto this shop before unlocking it. Again, just like same thing, the friendly spirit is like kind of cute. I probably just want another Jormungand at this point in the game though. That's really the only thing I'm interested in, but this Zelhua, we are not going to be able to slay against. They've got, their characters are just way too big. So we lost the game, but Oni Tyrant still got us to this point. And if some things had gone a little bit lucky for us, a little bit luckier for us earlier on, maybe Oni Tyrant could have been enough. It's still a very weird character for me, and I'm not totally sure how I feel about it. I think that some additional stats definitely helps because I was not playing it before. I don't think it's going to be enough, as I showcased here, to just generate a win with a comp just with Oni Tyrants. We even picked up these Oni Tyrants rather quickly, but the other comps are just able to scale and get ahead of these monster comps so easily, even when you're Trophy Hunter. And I think this was like the best case scenario for a lot of ways to showcase Oni Tyrant. So I'm still a little bit out on the character, but wanted to showcase it regardless here in this game. I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. And I do want to take a look at some of the other things available in this patch. Oops, let's take that off the screen. So let's break down the developer notes for patch 73.2, the October patch that we never really looked at. First thing, Goldilocks. If I had done a patch review on day one, I would have said that I wasn't super impressed with Goldilocks. My initial impression, as I said in my video last week, is it's a worse snow angel. I'm not so sure anymore. I have currently played 4 games on Goldilocks. In those 4 games, I have gotten first, and first. It's a very small sample size, but this hero is very, very powerful. So I definitely underestimated, and even in some of the games that I played with this hero, underestimated the ability to kind of be a mini APOC. And when you hit level 6, just pick up some really good tier 6 characters. Unlike APOC, I believe this is true. I believe that APOC never gets pairs, right? But Goldilocks can sometimes get pairs on her APOC turn, and it's also not like, it really does wind up being very similar to APOC, because you wind up picking like 3 or 4 of the tier 6 characters that you actually want, and then like you ignore the Lordy, or you pick up the trees, ignore the good stuff, you pick up the good stuff, ignore the evil stuff, something like that. But you really have a lot of choice, and There's a lot of other things going on with the hero that I will be showcasing, I'm sure, in some videos, both coming up next week and the week after. It's a really, really strong hero, and I definitely underestimated it, even though I was already saying it was pretty strong. Now it's like an APOC that also gets to play as an econ hero throughout the rest of the game. So I think it's pretty good. And I think that I definitely underestimated Goldilocks. And Puffy is the other new hero this patch, and I wanted to talk about Puffy some. I think I'm actually going to showcase a game briefly. Let me see if I can find it here. But when I uploaded my Puffy video, there were a lot of comments like, oh, you should have tried to grab the mirror or the world tree or the copycats, and you could have done some really cool stuff. And I get it. And puffs are cool. I just want to stress that, like, if you want to play this hero for fun, that's totally acceptable, and the hero can be really silly and fun to play with. But right now it's rated like E tier on untapped.gg, and I feel like that's a little bit unfair, because I think that people aren't realizing that one thing that you should do with Puffy is just be happy that you get a free character to start the game, and then just play Storybook Brawl. Don't worry about the fact that it's a puff. Just, you have an extra unit, and what can you do with that? So let's see. Yeah, I think this is a puff game where I think on 4.0, I want to say. Okay, so at some point I grab a crystal ball off of a Cinderella plus Noble Steed, and then I believe on 4.0 it's only a 6/6, so I just sell off my puff at some point here. Maybe not yet, but pretty soon. Yeah, okay, so I just sold it off. We'll see what I sell it off here for. Just to pick up a Lady of the Lake. Sure, why not? And then I've got Crystal Ball, and I'm just trying to do good things. I've got an upgraded Feasting Dragon. We're playing Storybook Brawl here. We don't need to worry about the puffs. And then I pick up Aeon, and then I'm Aeon balling, and then I think I transform into Trophy Hunter. Okay, I forgot about that. Before transforming into Zippy the Zombie, and then just winning. And nothing about this game cared about the fact that my puffs had +5/+5. So I really think that that's how you want to play it. I will say that this is like a little bit on the sillier side. We are playing Puffy, and turn 1, I Shard of the Ice Queen it, and I get a Kitty Cup Purse, which is the best possible hit. That might be a little bit too far, but it does still work out pretty well for me. And I had another game, I think, where I did something pretty similar. Yeah, I wound up, so I turn 1 shrink spelled into 2 evil characters and a Wizard's Familiar, and then Shard of the Ice Queen both pumps up the Wizard's Familiar and then potentially gets me a pair on either of these evil characters. Winds up not, I get a Black Cat off of it, so definitely a lower roll on that side of things. But that's all just to say that, like, Baby Puff, it's just a character. Don't overvalue it, and be willing to just play Storybook Brawl as a normal hero. That is some of my advice there. Sporko and Lady of the Lake both got a little bit of a nerf. I was joking that the big Lady of the Lake nerf is that the art got changed, and then it doesn't, I don't know, it's not as easier to find as this bright blue color, and kind of blends in with some of the other royal characters. I think that these characters are both going to be fine. It's certainly a little bit of a nerf, but they're still good ranged supports and powerful characters in their own right. Talked a lot about Evil Eye and Horn of Olympus already, but I'll touch on it a little bit more here. Evil Eye used to be a tier 6 treasure, so it's really strong at level 4. That's really sweet. And Horn of Olympus is also kind of getting a buff, because Horn is the more important treasure most of the time. Evil Eye might be more important in a Trophy Hunter comp, but otherwise Horn of Olympus is the more important treasure. And Horn is now easier to find because there's only 8 tier 5 treasures as opposed to there being like 13 tier 4 treasures. So that aspect is nice. Wombats in Disguise, I'm actually going to go so far as to say, did not receive a buff in this patch, and here's why. It's getting +1/+1, but the only times where you would play Wombats in Disguise is when you had Sporkos and Ladies of the Lake. And these are both getting -1 and -1, so this getting +1/+1, honestly, it winds up being about the same, and I think it needs a little bit more stats. And I think it's still not super great. It's just a really awkward card. It doesn't summon an animal, so it doesn't work with Bearstain. It's only really good in like very specific comps, and honestly, I don't think +1/+1 when the most common cards that you play with it getting nerfed is going to do too much to change that. We also looked at Oni Tyrant today, which now has a bunch of 13s on it. Didn't really mention that, but that is nice because that's a spooky number that people don't like, so that feels a little bit more evil. I really don't think this is going to be too big of a deal for Oni Tyrant still either, as I showcased in today's video, so I don't really think I have too much more to say on that. It was enough to get me into second place, and I do think that's where Oni Tyrant really shines, but it's never going to have the stats to compete with some of those crazy powerful comps in the end game. We also see a bunch of art changes new to this patch. I actually went through each of these arts one by one and said my thoughts on them in a previous recording of this video that did not work because I was having microphone problems. So that is lost to history, not going to do that again. And there's also some bug fixes and improvements. I'll go over the highlights here. They made some improvements to matchmaking, I believe in the previous patch, which has like a round robin phase, and apparently it wasn't like super randomized. Oh, let's move myself to the bottom here so I can keep that at the top of the screen. Yeah, so that was pretty awkward. I did not know about that. And we also saw this in the past month's monthly tournament where my final round day 1 opponent lost because of this bug. So I'm glad that this was fixed, and I'm sure that my opponent is also glad for that as well. This one you've probably noticed if you've been playing the game. When you lock the shop, it doesn't immediately unlock at the start of turn. It visually just kind of reminds you that you locked the shop. It's a little bit weird to get used to. I don't think it really has any big impact on the game. It's just a little bit weird sometimes, like, I don't know, but it's fine, and it's nice to be able to see, especially for like commentary and stuff, when stuff has been locked. So I do like that aspect of it. Yeah, and that's about it. We've reworked how summoning a character from off-board works with permanent effects. So I think this is the biggest change for Romeo and Juliet, because most of these things either worked before or they didn't work, but they still kind of don't work, because like Reduplicator, most of the time you're summoning like Bearstains or something like that, which still isn't really going to work. But now Romeo and Juliet works with Easter egg, and I think that is the biggest change. You could have like multiple Romeos spawn multiple Juliets. If each of those get an Easter egg trigger, then all of those get merged onto Juliet for the next turn. And I think that that'll actually be a really nice buff to that character, which you typically wouldn't play in an Easter egg comp because it didn't have any synergy, but now it does, other than the +3/+3 from being upgraded. So that's cool. And then this is also a really big change. When you triple a questing unit, you now get to keep the quest. So that is a big buff for Zippy the Zombie, and also just like a buff for doing cool things as well, in addition to being a buff for King Midas. So I really like that one. This was awkward. Sharon and Coin of Sharon did not work with Wombats in Disguise, which was just like one other thing that character had going against it. So that was awkward. And the rest, I think, were just bugs that didn't really come up super often. Yeah, none of this is really jumping out at me. That was like super consistent stuff that you really had to care about. Like if you have Cindy with one quest and you end it on Miri, you wouldn't gain a Miri counter. I never noticed that. Is very, very specific. I might not have ever even done it, but obviously sucks and it needs to get fixed. And then just a few name changes and things like that. But that is basically it. And hopefully now you guys feel that I have fully covered this patch with finally reviewing mostly just the changes to Oni Tyrant today. But let me know what you guys think about Oni Tyrant, about some of the other changes in the patch, and how you're feeling about Puffy, if you've been able to win on that hero, and how you're feeling about Goldilocks, because that hero is definitely a lot better than I thought it was. And we got some really fun Goldilocks videos coming up next week. So that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.